it's important that people understand that behind the people in positions of relative power, they are still human beings that really have to struggle, have to go through a lot of obstacles, and I think my story would be one that can inspire.
Welcome everybody to another edition of Uplift. And today, I am so honored and I am just taken aback who I have with me today is the Honorable Attorney, the Governor of Albay, Governor Rex LAGMAN. And what makes him so amazing is that from what I've heard, and I've already started speaking to some people about him, and one of the things that people always say about the Honorable Governor is that he's a very humble man. And that is such a powerful statement because being humble makes you connected to the people, right? And that's why I think that's one of his, one of your superpowers, right? See, everybody has a superpower in order to succeed. And one of them is you're very humble.
Thank you.
Makes him very approachable. So today, I want to be able to welcome today the Honorable Governor Rex LAGMAN. Thank you for being on the show today.
Raymond, it's a pleasure to be with you, and it's something that I really look forward to. I've had information that you'll be here in Albay, and this is something that I think would foster more connections with our youth, and it's important that people understand that behind the people in positions of relative power, they are still human beings that really have to struggle, have to go through a lot of obstacles, and I think my story would be one that can inspire younger generations of Albayanos.
I am so excited to hear your story. You know, first of all, in order to become a governor, right, there were some challenges in that, right? You know, you probably started off being an attorney, right? Where did you study at?
Well, I had my pre-law in UP.
Okay. UP.
And then I studied in San Beda for my law proper. And then I practiced law for 4 years.
Wow.
And then I eventually decided to enter public service when I was actually convinced that I would be able to serve a bigger constituency if I had a public service portfolio or platform. So this was way back in 2004 when I first ran for councilor in Quezon City, one of the more progressive and actually the richest city in the Philippines.
Yes. And then from there, so you always knew, did you ever have it like in your blood, knowing that one day you want to serve a much greater population of people?
You know, Raymond, I was just a young man that wanted to be a doctor. Actually, my course in UP was a pre-med course. I would have wanted to be a doctor, but I realized early on that I don't think that would be the best career track for me. So I eventually shifted to political science, which is a good pre-law course. And then from there, I eventually became a lawyer. And I think it's good to underscore that we come from a family of people who have really solid and deep advocacies. Two of my uncles actually laid down their lives for the movement.
Wow.
Attorney Herman Lagman was the first desaparecido during martial law. And then my uncle, Kapopoy Lagman, the youngest sibling of my father, Congressman Lagman, was actually assassinated in February 7, 2001. And those two separate incidents in my life as a young man, as a young child, because the first one happened in 1977. The second, tragedy happened in 2001. That's like 20 years gap. So it really affected me as a young person, as a young lawyer, which made me decide that I think there are better pursuits to undertake in life than just lawyering. Although we had this law office that was completely dedicated to laborers, to labor federations, to those who are marginalized. So I think that background really helped me decide to pursue a bigger stage wherein people can be best served if you have solid advocacies.
So I love your advocacies, and I also could see that running through your veins was the power of leadership, right? Because it already runs in your family, right? But were there challenges along the way that were stumbling blocks to your rise to a higher level?
Most definitely. Raymond, the first attempt for a public office that I was into was in college, and I lost. I lost for a position that I thought I would easily win, because for at the time I wasn't really well conversant with how school politics work. So I lost, and it really made me feel depressed because it's a judgment among peers, so to
Yes.
speak. When you run for a certain elective office in school, in UP for that matter, you're like in a microscope. So
Yeah.
I lost in my first attempt, but luckily, in the real politic dynamic, I won in 2004, and that started the winning tradition, so to speak. But you have to understand that I would have decided not to just enter any kind of leadership position where you have to be elected because of the pain I felt at that time. I didn't
Really
do
hit deep inside.
Yes, because I really felt that I had something to offer
Yeah.
my colleagues, my peers in college at that time. But you know how it is, school politics. It's
Yeah.
it's really different from the real thing.
Exactly.
And I also have some health issues growing up. I was a very sickly child, Raymond. So I had to make sure that I was physically fit. I had a bad case of asthma. I was the only sibling among seven who had to go through birthdays in hospitals.
Wow.
I had to celebrate like four birthdays in hospital because of my medical issues.
Yeah.
But I think that made me more conscious of the fact that healthy living is very important. Exercise, which of course would foster discipline, and made me a relatively healthy individual to the point that I actually had my first medal in sports as a
Wow.
BMX competitor. I think you would be familiar with that. In the
Yes,
80s,
yeah.
there was this bike, a BMX bike, a bicycle motocross, bicycle that can go up to ramps and, make some
So were you able
daredevil
to jump
moves.
some? Did some spins?
Yes, I did. I actually did that, and I
Wow.
actually won a medal.
Yeah.
My first medal was not an academic medal. It was a sports medal coming from an asthmatic kid. So you would somehow see how discipline, how belief in yourself, how your persistence can work for you. And then in college, I actually played competitive basketball. I represented San Beda Law in our inter-school competitions
In college.
in college, in law school. And so I think I did pretty well in sports. But of course, it has to spill over to some more important aspects of life. The
Like
discipline,
college,
the
school.
perseverance in like school, like in academics, for example. I was not a very good law student when I was first starting off.
Were you struggling as a law student?
I was actually. My first 2 years in law school were quite bad, and it was only in my third or fourth years that I finally got to know the groove, the to get the real the vibe on how to really excel in law school. And luckily, despite all those earlier challenges, I graduated 10th among a class of 114 graduates.
That
so I
is
think that's
very
quite
impressive.
a good ending to a very bad start.
So I got to ask you, just stop right there.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, what is it that you said in your head at that time when you were struggling, right? That made you said, you know what, I need to change something about myself, because if I'm struggling with college, then I need to be able to find the secrets in order to not struggle.
Yeah.
What was that you learned? What was that set in your head that you have to succeed?
Well, a certain level of introspection is needed. You have to understand. You have to understand yourself more than any other person in this world. You have to master yourself. So I was not making the right choices. I was not studying really the way I should. I thought being from UP would be a guarantee for me to succeed in law school, but it wasn't the case. I had to go through the different idiosyncrasies of studying law. It's quite a very wide coverage in terms of subjects, unlike in the US, where
Yeah.
it's quite very specific. In the Philippines, it's very broad. So you have to have this certain technique. So what made me eventually succeed is to understand that the old ways of doing things must always be subject to innovation. I think innovation will be one of those who that played a big part in how I would deal with problems when I became a lawyer, when I became a public servant. That there is no single way to do something, and when something fails, there should always be a plan B or plan C or plan D for that matter. So that's how I see this role as governor, as an executive, that you cannot really perfect or make a program the way you want it to be at the first take. So you have to be very open to making mistakes. You have to give yourself allowances for failure. So I think that made me understand that patience is key. You have to know your passion. You have to know that nothing is given to you on a silver platter in life. So that's one thing that I learned from my failures and from the obstacles I had to overcome.
I first of all, I am just awestruck by you. I mean, the clarity in your mind, the clarity in your goals. I mean, your understanding of what it takes to succeed. You're talking about your patience and to persevere and to understand your passion. That's really so important in order for people to achieve in life. Correct?
Yes, and I think I see some lack of focus in our younger people. I'm not saying that they cannot do what we have done. I mean, I think you're a very successful man
No, thank you.
from what I see. Yeah, from what
Yeah.
I've gathered. Uh, but I think millennials nowadays have a very short attention span, and they seem to be very much fixated with instant gratification. Meaning to say, if they don't get things right on the first try, they kind of get emo about it.
Yes.
They get emotional. So I think it's very important to be grounded. It's very important to allow yourself to fail. It's very important to see that in every failure there's a silver lining, and crisis really brings forth opportunities.
Yes.
Life is not easy. Millennials should understand that. You should really be prepared to be there for the long haul. It's not a short term program or project in your life. It's a lifelong learning process, and I think millennials should be aware of this very important truism
Yes,
in life.
because once you have that kind of personality when you're young, it has a tendency of spilling over when you're older, right? So if you're idle when you're young, chances are you're going to be idle when you're in your 30s, you're going to be
True.
idle in your 40s, you're going to be idle in your 50s, and then you're going to one day wake up and says, "Oh my God, I've
I'm an
been
old man."
idle all my life, and this is what I got. This is where I'm at." And many people are just not happy about that, you know. So that's why listening to your story is such a crucial lesson, because this is really what people have to learn, right, about how to succeed. And your lessons that you learned when you were young, I mean, translated to where you are at today, right?
Yes.
So when you were running for a higher level office after you graduated college, how were you able to take some of those lessons that you learned when you were young to be able to succeed to where you're at now?
Well, early on, I realized that you can't please everybody.
Yeah.
I think that's a premise that you should proceed from, and rejection from certain, let's say, groups of people should not be a hindrance for you to actually get into the other, groups of people
Yeah.
that you can actually touch base with more. And then when you get to touch base with them and become successful with them, I think that's the time that you return back to a sector that first rejected you.
Yes.
Because in the Philippines, it's very varied. We have the LGBT community, we have the elderly, senior citizens, we have the marginalized PWDs, persons with disabilities. We have a lot of people competing for different interests that the government must address. So I think what I did was to take it a sector at a time. That's what I
Wow.
did. Because if you would approach it in such a way that, well, I would like to touch base with everyone, you're definitely gonna fail.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that each sector taken must be there must be a convergence with them, one at a time, not all at the same
I
time.
really, really love that because so many people are, especially in government or in business, you're trying to please everybody, only to realize by trying to please everybody, you please no one.
That's correct. That's very true. That's very true. So I've seen some politicians have this shotgun approach, meaning to say that they would approach a certain sector the same way they would approach a completely different one. So that would not work. There are certain dynamics that you have to consider. For example, when you talk to the youth, you cannot just say that the formula for in talking with them would be the same when we talk with the elderly. It's a different. You have to adjust and be flexible constantly. So I think that helped me early on because having a varied clientele when I was practicing law allowed me to understand the human condition. That every human being is actually different, and you must undertake to really understand where they're coming from. And sometimes politicians have this one size fits all mindset that this formula work for this particular group. I'm sure it will work for this another group. But it's not really the case. You have to constantly evolve, constantly adapt, and innovate.
I really like that, being able to innovate for each individual group because you can't treat everybody the same, right? Because everybody has different needs. And it seems like you've not only mastered your course in law, but you also mastered human dynamics, being able to understand individuals. I mean, so you understand a little psychology, right? And that is so helpful. I think that's one of the reasons why you have succeeded so well in your rise to becoming governor. Now, before you became a governor, were you did you run for a lesser office
Yes.
before that?
The first office I was elected to was councillor. It's a local legislative post in Quezon City. But I think Quezon City provides a very good training ground for local legislators who want to pursue a higher office. I was a councillor for 3 terms. Luckily, I was able to win councillor. I was a number 1 councillor for 2 terms out of the 3
Wow.
terms that I was in.
Yeah.
And then after that, I ran for Congress here in Albay. And it was a very acrimonious and very difficult political fight. I only won by only 5,000 votes.
Oh, wow, that was a
that's
very razor-thin.
razor-thin
Yeah.
lead because I think that was the most important election that I was a part of. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about how real politics work, how people tend to present to you, advice that is actually geared to make you fail. So it's
Wow.
very important for a politician to understand that, you have to trust people,
Yeah.
but you cannot trust everyone. There should only be, you should always be guarded in your
Yeah.
decisions. In that particular election, I was up against Asayon in Albay. He was the son of a former senator, and he was at the time an incumbent. But we're friends right now. That's the
Yeah.
good thing about politics, Raymond. You get to be friends with your former adversaries.
Yes.
And then I just learned a lot from that election. And then after that, it was quite easier when I went for vice governor. A vice governor actually represents the whole province. There are only 2 positions in Albay where you actually campaign in the whole province, the three districts. all the 50 municipalities and 3 cities, and that's for governor and for vice governor. When I ran in 2013 for congressman, I only had to campaign district-wide. So there were 5 municipalities and 6 cities. So you can just imagine my transition from the district to the province,
Yeah.
from a micro to a macro level, Raymond. So I think 2013 was a blessing in disguise. I wasn't happy with what the results actually presented to me, but it's something that you can learn from.
So, Governor, you said that you've learned a lot about yourself. What was the biggest thing you learned about yourself? Was it persistence? Was it patience? Well, what was that?
Well, there will be times that that I was hard on myself, and then a certain level of introspection would be always be helpful, because sometimes we get to react in a knee-jerk fashion. We get angry, we get impatient.
Yeah.
But when you actually think about what you're actually dealing with at present, you have to go back to the past on how a similar problem was resolved when you were more relaxed, you were more on an even keel, so to speak. You're more balanced. So I always make sure that when I'm so riled up, I go back to those times that, hey, I went through this already in the past. I don't think there's any reason for me not to, make sure that I get to solve this one in the same manner I solved a harder problem in the past. Because I always catch myself reacting sometimes to problems. This job is a 10 to 12 to 14 hour job on the
Yeah.
average per day. It's very different from being a congressman. A congressman can work like 6 to 7 hours a day. A vice governor in the same manner, but an executive position demands a lot of your time. Like for example, we were together in Pepperland. We have to go here
Yeah.
again in my office, and then go back there for the oath taking, and then return because I have a commitment with you.
Yes.
So and after this, I would have to deal with my official family here in the province, and after the same, go again to another event. So there are many things that the governor has to do on a daily basis. If you were able to interview Mayor Ligacion,
Yes.
I think it's a very challenging job.
Very.
But just imagine, it's a city. Naga is a city. Among how many cities in Camarines Sur?
Quite a few.
Quite a few. So, but this one is like times.
Times 10, 20, 30. I can't even imagine.
So that's where time management would come in. That's where learning how to stop.
Yeah.
I think a politician, especially in an executive post like a governor,
Yeah.
should learn how to pace himself. I think burnout is a very real phenomenon among executives.
Very common.
Very common. That's why we have to address that by making sure that you also learn how to pace yourself. So there will be times that I would just say, I won't attend this particular event because it would be counterproductive for the next ones that I have to attend.
Exactly.
So I have to prioritize. I have to make sure that the ones I'm attending are the ones that really matter.
Yes.
Because if you spread yourself too thinly,
Yeah.
you achieve
Yeah.
lesser and lesser. In
It's
terms
just like we said earlier, it's like you can't please everybody and you can't please everything at the same time, because if you try to please everything at the same time, you please nothing, right? And most
Correct.
importantly, your family, right? They have to have family time as well,
yes.
right? And I could only imagine how difficult that might be, trying to balance family responsibilities as well as your career responsibilities.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that your wife fully 100% supports you
Yeah.
in your endeavors.
Raymond, it's very important to have someone in life who gives you the refuge from your daily toil, so to
Yeah.
speak. I think many politicians who do not enjoy the positions they're at are those who do not have a very supportive spouse.
Yeah.
It's very important, Raymond, to have someone who understands you, someone who is patient enough to allow you to work, and then someone who will not, make your house a battleground or home a battleground. I think I've been through that before, but luckily I was able to adjust and make a happy compromise with my wife to make sure that she's also happy. It's also important that our wives are happy,
I
Raymond.
love that. I love that.
Otherwise, it's going to be a one-way street. It should
That's
all be a
right.
two-way street.
That's right, because you don't want to be able to think, oh my gosh, I'm going to be going home and this is what I'm going to get at the house. But
Yes.
instead, you got a loving, supporting wife.
Yeah.
All right. Who would you consider are some of your top mentors that have taught you some of the secrets to your success?
Definitely, it would have to be my dad, Congressman Lagman. He was an excellent litigator, an excellent lawyer. He had to deal with the deaths of two of his violent ones at that, for that matter,
Yeah.
two younger siblings. He had to be the padre de familia, the father of the family at a very young age because I don't think he had a very good relationship with his father. And so he had to mature at a very early age. So my dad would always be the one he would not really give me unsolicited advice. It's like we will just talk, and then from the conversations, I would be able to pick up what he wants me to do or the advice that that is hidden along those. You can just read along the line, so to speak. So that's what the way he treats his sons. He doesn't treat me differently from his other kids. That's one thing I admire about him. There's no favoritism. If I make mistakes, I get it from him. I think you understand what I mean.
Yes.
If I make good decisions, he would not really be so excited and say, "Oh, you did a
Great
great job."
job,
No,
yeah.
he's not like that. He's a baby boomer,
Yeah.
and you know how tough baby boomers are.
Yeah.
So Raymond, I think my dad is the one that made me understand politics the way I should.
Yeah.
In the Philippines, there's a saying, "Where did you learn your politics from?" I think it's very important to learn it from someone who really wants the best for you. Because some of my colleagues got it from a politician who's not their relative. So it's still different. I think familial ties would make a mentor more concerned about his protege, so to speak. It would make him more concerned that he will not be exposed to bad habits.
Yeah.
I think I'm very lucky to have a father who's principled. I think if you research about him, he's on his ninth term in Congress, one of the
Wow.
longest serving members of the House of Representatives. He's now 81 years old, but still very
But
sharp.
he's still going.
He's still going, and then the wisdom that man has imparted on me is really priceless. So I think it's my dad who's my number one mentor.
Mentor. And I could really see that. Earlier, I said that leadership runs in your blood. And hearing how your father has survived, the rigors of politics for so long, it just shows the character and the strength, because he has to be elected over and over again. So every time he's running, he's judged again, right? People are looking at him through the lens of what has he done right and what has he done wrong, right?
Correct.
You have to do enough right things in order for them to say, I want him to be elected again. He has to win votes. And it's not only the votes that you're winning, but it's also the hearts that you're winning, right? So that's why for you, I mean, I don't know how long you want to be a governor, but I have a feeling that if you're going to be running again, because of your strong beliefs, because of your strong advocacies, there's no doubt in my mind you won't be elected over and over and over again, right? Because it is not only in your blood, but it's also in your heart to be able to help as many people as possible. Is that right?
Absolutely correct.
Yeah.
And then my dad he grew up poor. My dad grew up poor. He had to learn how to ride a bike and sell pandesal.
Wow.
Yes, he had to go through all these challenges. He wasn't able to join Vanguard in UP because he had no money to buy the uniform. he was a scholar when he entered the UP. So I think whenever I see what he went through, it makes me more grateful. I don't think, Raymond, that there's self-made men. I think they're just men who are ungrateful,
Yeah.
men who do not look into the many facets of life that made them succeed. I would say that my dad was a self-made man in the sense that the odds were stacked up against him. But my dad is very grateful for the people who helped him out succeed, help him succeed in life. So I think having gratitude is very important. Saying thank you to all sorts of individuals who made you succeed is very important because it keeps you grounded. It doesn't make you feel like you have a monopoly on your success.
Yeah.
I think everyone's success would be more heartfelt if it's shared with many people. And that's, I think, the secret to staying long in politics.
Yeah.
To have this sense of gratitude, to have this sense of, to have this word of honor to the people who helped you, that you have to help back as well. It's not a quid pro quo thing, Raymond, of course. What I'm just saying is that we know how to acknowledge all the things that and all the people who made us who we are right now.
Wow.
So I think it's very important that I always learn to say thank you.
One of the things that I was doing when I was outside, I was talking to the locals, right? And I said, "So tell me a little bit about the governor." And one of the things that someone said was that he was a hands-on governor. And I saw that because yesterday we were supposed to have our first
Yes.
podcast,
Right.
but you had to cancel it because you had to attend an emergency, I think, at the evacuation center. And that's when someone said, "Yeah, he's a very hands-on person." It's not like you just say you delegate the responsibility to a staff member. You actually go there and make sure things are done right. Right? You're very hands-on, and I had this thought in my mind that like if it's time for harvest, you're actually in the fields, right? You're not a manager, but you're a leader, and that is so. It's not always common in today's politics and in today's even business, but that's what I see in you. I mean, at least that's what people have said, right? And which really goes to show, I think you've learned a lot from your father, and you've learned a lot from your uncles, and the struggles and the challenges that they also had early in their career. And instead of you coming upon and being a person who's, I've been raised with a silver spoon, right? You actually said, no, I am just like everybody else. Right, I am just like anybody, and that's how you're able to be able to approach others and have them see you as this humble individual. Right,
That's correct.
I love that. So, if you were having, I know you've already said so much that is really amazing, but if you had one lesson you want to tell to those who are struggling to achieve something in their life, but they feel that man, I'm having a hard time doing it. What would your biggest words of inspiration to them? What would you like to say?
Well, it's very important for people who are experiencing setbacks in life to always look back to the reasons why they actually pursued what they just embarked on. And even if they failed, it doesn't mean the end of the world. I don't think people should be defined by their failures. I think they should be defined by how they overcome them. It's very important for people to understand that you cannot always win. You can't win all the marbles, Raymond. And as long as you have the roadmap, as long as you have the persistence and the passion and the purpose, I don't think a person who has failed will just stay on that particular doldrum, so to speak. He will eventually make it. And you must have faith in yourself. You must never give up. I think patience plays a big part, and consistency. You have to be consistent in how you think. It's a mindset for me. When some, say, younger people fail, they go into this kind of mindset that there's no way for me to get out of this rut. No, no, that's something that you have to change within yourself. That sooner or later things will be brighter. Things will just pan out the way you plan it to be in the first place. If you never lose your persistence, your consistency, your passion and purpose.
Wow, I just love that. How important was your faith to you in you achieving how you achieve?
You know, Raymond, I'm not a very religious guy. I was brought up in a Catholic school in San Beda, Alabang. They're the Benedictines, and then I think what I think is very important is being in tune with your humanity. I think being a humanitarian person makes you do things in a more practical way than being too, I think, religious.
Yeah.
I think humanitarian pursuits makes you feel more spiritual. I think I'm a more spiritual person than a religious person.
I love that.
But I think that, in essence, makes you be a man of faith as well. Believing in a supreme being, a God can be anyone to various people. He can be Allah, he can be Jesus, he can be Buddha.
That is
But at the end of the day, there's a supreme being that you have to understand is there.
Yeah.
Not for you to understand in the first instance, but sooner or later in life you would understand that he must be someone to guide you, to make you feel that there's something more than being just a human being by serving others. I think humanity is best expressed when you give a lot of yourself
Yeah.
to people. Doesn't that matter how many. I've always told myself that when I feel bad about a certain day, I just be at peace if I was able to help one person. Just one
Wow.
person,
Wow.
Raymond. I mean, in a big way, not just because you gave him some kind of support, financially or legally or advice for that matter, but something that can really make him feel that, hey, I have something here that I can build on. So only one person a day would be
Wow.
enough for me to
Just
go on.
one person a day. That would be 365 people in a year. That is huge, right? And so, 5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see yourself at?
Well, Raymond, I have to be very frank with you. It was my dream to. My dad did not win when he ran for senator in 1998, and I think that dream of his is now my dream. So, but being a governor in a very local setup would that really give me all the opportunities to touch base on a larger scale. So hopefully Raymond, I will be able to have a platform
Yeah.
or a portfolio that would make me connect on a more national level. Because I think that's my dream to become senator one day.
Senator Lagman. I want to lend you my support. When
Thank
you
you so
run,
much.
I want to be
This early?
Yes,
Raymond?
yes. I want to start supporting you right away because I really just love your platform. I love your advocacy. I love the level of clarity in your voice, right? And it is just so empowering. And I could see you taking your level of leadership beyond just here in the province of Albay, which, by the way, is one of the most beautiful
Thank you.
provinces I have been to, and I have been to a lot. Okay, but the view in here in Albay is absolutely gorgeous. But for you to be able to take your level of leadership onto more national scene, I think would be something that Filipinos need, right?
Thank you so
And to
much,
be,
Raymond.
and so when you're running, you let me know, and I'll come on
it's
board.
it's not a pipe dream for you.
Yeah.
It's not a pipe dream. It's something that can be realized
Yes.
in your estimation.
Yes. Oh, you know what? I have no doubt in my mind, and you're such a young man. I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that maybe after you become a senator, you could also be the president.
Oh my God.
In fact, when I first met you, I said, "Oh my God!" And I get to know you, and I spoke to some people who also know you, just people off the street, and they said, Governor Lagman is this kind of an individual, and I could see that transforming into a much even higher office. And that's the kind of leadership that we really need. Not a leadership that scares people to voting for them, but a leader who inspires other people to vote for them because they could see themselves in you. Right.
That's a very beautiful way to coin it.
Yeah.
People must be able to relate to you.
Yes.
But in the Philippines, there's a culture here that some autocratic tendencies are appreciated
Yeah.
because some Filipinos need that kind of iron fist.
Yeah.
But I don't think I have to go through that route.
No.
I think I must be able to just be myself
Yeah.
and also present some kind of discipline. Filipinos need discipline.
I see that on the road.
It's culture bound. I think we've been collaborating with
Yeah.
our colonizers for the longest time. That's why Filipinos tend to be very personalistic about leaderships and leaders, for that matter. And I think that has to change. That has to change. But I don't think having an autocratic mindset would help.
Yeah.
You have to make them understand that, hey, you have to be disciplined, but we still respect you, but not scare you
Yeah.
into doing something just because you might,
Yeah.
pay for your life if you don't do my bidding
Exactly.
as the leader. I don't think that kind of leadership worked. I think you've where
I've
I'm
seen that,
driving
yes.
at in
Yes.
the past few years. You've seen how that actually panned out. But now I think the President
Yeah.
Marcos is a better is a more balanced leader
I see
than
that. Yeah, I see that.
his previous
Yeah.
than his predecessor. Yeah.
Yes. Yes. And I
Surprisingly, because when you get to know the man,
Yeah.
you would understand that the perception versus reality dynamic in politics applies to him.
Yes.
People tend to judge the man immediately just because
Of the past.
of the past. But he's now his own man.
Yeah.
He must be given all the opportunities to prove himself.
Yes.
And I think from what he has done, I think he's doing a good job.
I remember
Yeah.
when he got elected, and this is going away from your conversation.
yeah.
But I prayed for him, because I said I pray that he becomes one of the best presidents ever.
Yeah.
Okay, and so far I think he's doing a pretty good job, and I think what's wonderful in this conversation is that you're looking at his presidency and also the presidents of the past, and you're learning what works and what doesn't work. And that's going to be a powerful way for you to move forward in your career to eventually become one day a president. All right?
That's a long stretch. Too much.
It's a long stretch, but it's not impossible.
Okay.
Right? It's not impossible. And I am so happy to have had you on this interview. I think you are just a powerful man with huge potential, and I mean, you won me over, and I'm sure a lot of people who are listening and watching this podcast would also be inspired by not only what you have done, what you're doing, and what you potentially could do in the future, not for only Filipinos here, but for people everywhere around the world, right? That's what we really are looking for. A president, a leader who could go beyond personal interests and go and to empower people all over the world, not only his countrymen, right? And I could see you doing that. So didn't want to promote him so early, but I just really like this man. So Governor, thank you for being on this podcast. I really appreciate it. And I know there's a lot of people out there who will also really love this podcast as well. So it was such a pleasure. Thank you.
Raymond, let me just tell you that this is the deepest conversation I've had with someone who cares about the Philippines,
Yeah.
who's a Filipino at heart, and who knows the value of being a global Filipino.
Yeah.
I think we're more than being, known as workers in the
Yeah.
domestic the field or whatever. We can be leaders of this world.
Yes.
We can really be at par with those European powers.
I
Yeah.
truly believe that. I was born here in Manila, but I left when I was 4 years old
Four? Oh.
to live in the United States, and I was I grew up in the United States. I went to school in the United States. I was married in the United States. I bought a house in the United States. But there was a time in my life I said I want to go back to the Philippines. I want to empower Filipinos, to teach them what I have learned, and to also meet some of the most powerful and successful Filipinos, so they could also teach the Filipinos what they have gathered in their lives, right? And these are the heroes of today and tomorrow. And that's why I'm so happy to have you had on my podcast. Thank you very much.
The pleasure is mine.
We look
Raymond,
forward to
thank you so
having you
much.
on the future podcast.
Please,
yes,
please.
when
Amen.
you're a senator, okay, and then again when you're the president. So we got 2 more podcasts in the future. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you very much.
More power to you.
More power to you.
God bless you.